Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the Brain Dead Breakdown. And we're going to be looking at a Linus Tech Tips video today. I've seen a Linus Tech Tips video pop up in my sub box. It is, we bought a giant movie CD player, and it's amazing. And let's just say I'm curious. Let's just say that it's got me curious. I want to find out what's up. I want to find out what it is and what it does and all that fun shit. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're gonna find out. Let's go.
This is a vinyl record, and this is a DVD. But what if, whoa, laser discs, or DiscoVision as they were once called, used to be a very sought-after video format, and by some they still are. From 1979 up until the advent of the DVD in the late 90s, Laserdisc was the best option for experiencing high-end video in the comfort of your own home or high school science classroom, and it was the dream format of movie fanatics everywhere. And this cinephile love was well-deserved. It had many of the qualities that would eventually become the key selling features of DVD and subsequently Blu-ray, with twice the resolution of VHS, the ability to pause on a still frame, support for surround sound, instant chapter skipping, director's commentary, and it could even do 1080i resolution in special cases near the end of its life. And it wasn't just the users. Filmmakers loved the way that Laserdisc made their films look and sound. It was the first format to be capable of home THX audio, and it was the first format to receive the Criterion Collection, the ultimate versions of films like Blade Runner and Raging Bull. In fact, in some famous cases, it was the best format to ever receive that definitive cut of the film. Star Wars. Speaking of Star Wars, Lucasfilm even stored raw footage on these discs and used it for editing with a system that they called Edit Droid. So Return of the Jedi was on Laserdisc before it was even in the theater. But just how well does it hold up today? Was it replaced by DVD because of some kind of technological improvement, or was it just out of cost and convenience?
Personally, I'm going to assume cost and convenience because Laserdisc is before my time. I've never known anyone who owned Laserdisc. They were not common throughout my youth in the UK. No, I've never seen a person who owned a Laserdisc. I don't know anyone who owned a Laserdisc player. We were all VHS and VCR. You know, so it was like I had videos. I had a VHS player and I had a VCR recorder, and then I moved to DVD and Blu-ray, and then oh, Jolly Roger, the good old Jolly Roger. But yeah, Laserdisc was never a thing. So I don't know much about Laserdisc. I mean, I used to be the tech guy, so I knew a lot about DVD, and I'd burn DVDs and rip DVDs and stuff for my friends, and Blu-ray. I knew a lot about those, but Laserdisc I do not. So this should be a quite interesting video for me to educate me on some of the points of Laserdisc that I do not know.
Find out, we spent over $1,000 US to buy one of the coveted few players that are still available, and copies of Terminator 2 in a variety of formats to compare them and find out once and for all, is biggest disc best disc?
They picked a great movie to test as well, Terminator 2. Although, is that the good version of the Blu-ray? Because I don't think that's the good version of the Blu-ray, because Terminator 2 had two releases on Blu-ray. It had the standard edition, which was just a lazily done conversion, and then the ultimate edition, which was not a lazily done conversion. They went all out. It didn't have that stupid blue tint that all lazily done Blu-ray conversions get, and all of that stuff. So I'm wondering which version of Terminator 2 they have on Blu-ray in the background there, because it looked like, I'm not sure, because the case for the Canadian release is different to the case for the UK release, so I can't tell by first look.
And what else could Laserdisc do? Can it play the segue to our sponsor?
Do you have a hard time lifting? Then don't. Let your desk do the work.
FlexiSpot is an adjustable desk that can carry up to 400.
Oh, they're just letting Dennis do the sponsor spots in general now.
Even feel a shake.
Start flexing with FlexiSpot at the link below.
Believe it or not, the concept of electron beam data storage was invented way back in the late 50s or early 60s by David Paul Gregg. It then entered a dormant state due to some patent shenanigans until ultimately MCA and Philips worked together to bring the technology to market, reusing the form factor of vinyl records, which MCA was producing by the millions. Thusly, Laserdisc was born. It soft-launched in 1978 with the release of Jaws in the Atlanta, Georgia test market, and then formally launched in 1979. To label Laserdisc with words like success or failure would be an oversimplification in either case. It did fail to gain widespread adoption, but it succeeded at pushing home cinema forward, and it succeeded at standing the test of time, maintaining its admittedly niche relevance for over 20 years. That's right, the last movies on this format were released in 2001, and Pioneer continued to manufacture players for it until 2009.
Damn.
Believe it or not, I have never watched a film on Laserdisc. My only experience with it was one of my high school teachers pulled out a player and played something for a little bit to kill some time. That's it.
I've never seen a Laserdisc movie before, but I have used quite a few for karaoke.
Oh, more on that later. Ooh, I like this setup. We've got a CRT for authenticity, and then we've also got a retro... Ooh, I like this setup. We've got a...
Is that a Batman-themed CRT? Do you know what? I would say that I want it if it wasn't for the fact I'm almost certain that that is based on the Batman and Robin logo. With bat nipples, badass, and fucking George Clooney. So, maybe not. Kick some ace. And Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, but... Anyway, besides the point, let's move on.
A CRT for authenticity, and then we've also got a RetroTink 5X so that we can watch it on the bigger screen. I love how much every time we pull out a CRT, we're like, oh, I miss CRT. It just looks better on there.
CRTs are so great as soon as you become that age where you no longer hear the whine.
Can I just say at this point, before we've even done the side-by-side, this knocks the ever-loving snot out of VHS for image quality. That looks great! If TVs never got as big as they are today, I don't see how realistically we would need higher resolution than this. Like, it's retina, it's really sharp. Let's show off another cool Laserdisc feature by skipping to the next chapter. What? It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
It's not instantaneous. You can hear the laser moving.
Yeah.
But it's fast enough where comparing it to
It's faster than fast forward,
it's night and day.
I'm going to be the one to say it. Yep. His pecs look great. To be clear, by modern standards, this is not high resolution. We're talking 425 to 440 TV lines depending on the region. But it was uncompressed, and by comparison, VHS was only 240 TV lines. So this was closer to DVD grade image quality, but more than 15 years earlier.
It's possibly even better picture quality than DVD because color banding doesn't happen on Laserdisc.
We have a VHS player and a copy of the same film on VHS. We're going to look at that later, but first, let's experience just a little bit more glorious disc-based movie goodness. Ah! Will that move ever not be cool?
I don't think it ever can be.
I'm going to sit on the floor because that's what we used to do back when CRT TVs were small, is we'd just sit closer to the TV.
I never did that because it was bad for your eyes.
That's what our mothers and fathers told us. They meant well, but baby boomers don't know everything, it turns out. Unfortunately, we don't have a great sound setup today, just the speakers built into our TV. But audio was another major advantage of the platform. Laserdisc supported multiple audio tracks, and it was the first format to support digitally encoded surround sound at home.
They even went so far as to create an ad with Ray Charles.
The really wild part is that what we're experiencing right now is far from Laserdisc's final form. As a standard that persisted for over 20 years, it actually changed a lot over its lifespan. In 1986, the BBC released their Domesday Project, which was sort of a census of the UK, and the data was only viewable on a BBC Master AIV system, which included a Philips LV-ROM drive that couldn't play movies, but it could read data-only Laserdiscs. Few other uses of LV-ROM are publicly known. In 1987, Pioneer released the first player that could also play CD video, not to be confused with video CD, which was an all-digital format that came in 1993. CD video could hold 5 minutes of video and 20 minutes of extra audio. Then in 1990, adding further confusion, video single disc came along, which was a laser disc the size of a CD. These often contained single songs or short musical performances because they had room for only 5 minutes of video.
So it's essentially the same as an LP and an LP and a single with vinyl. It was the same. It was like, yeah, it's the same. It's just, yeah, okay.
With the accompanying audio and no extra audio. It was released only in Japan with the exception of one promotional disc in the US that was included with the earliest release of Terminator 2. Then, by the early 1990s, every player on the market could also play audio CDs, a format that went from zero to complete dominance within the lifespan of Laserdisc. Though, once again, Laserdisc was low-key way ahead of the curve, and state-of-the-art players could play Dolby Digital surround sound starting with the 1992 release of Batman Returns. Several arcade systems, like the Taito D3BOS released in 1991 using Laserdisc for high-quality interactive video titles, and in 1994, remember, this is still 3 years before DVD would break.
1994, 29 years ago, I would have been one.
480p resolution to the mainstream. Laserdisc became capable of HD playback with the release of Hi-Vision in Japan. Now, it was only 1,035 lines instead of 1080, and it was interlaced, so 1035i. But who cares? It was HD
Yeah,
in
like,
19...
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, yes, saying, oh, it's 1035i. Like, no one would have known what the fuck that was in 94. I didn't know what the fuck 1080p and all that shit was until like 2005. Right? So, yeah, most people wouldn't have had a clue what that shit meant. And so to like the kids today, they're probably thinking, oh, 4K. Like, why would I want that compared to 4K? Yeah, well, why wouldn't you want it compared to fucking 240p? Which is what we were watching. And that's the other thing. 240p was a best case scenario. If you were the type of people like me who didn't have much money, and me and my mum, and you would record stuff off the TV with your VHS on long play to make the tapes last longer, then it would cut the resolution even more. Maybe half? I can't remember. But yeah, there was some... It was rough. It was rough in the 90s. Like when you were trying to capture, you know, home media. Like home media was rough.
5i? But who cares? It was HD in 1994. That is 6 years before the first US HD broadcast, which was the Super Bowl in January of 2000. Why don't we have one of those?
They're very expensive.
I get it, very expensive, because there's not many of them. In a way, that's kind of a great summary of Laserdisc's problems, or at least part of them. While the barrier to entry for a low-end Laserdisc machine was certainly higher than a low-end VCR, it wasn't that out of line with mid-range VHS players, and the discs themselves were actually cheaper in some cases.
Yeah, by the early 1990s, they typically went for $25 to $30 MSRP, which is significantly less than the $85 to $100 that rental tapes would when they hit the market around that same time.
What?
But this...
$85 to $100 for a fucking VHS in the 90s? What? That can't be fucking right, surely. I mean, look, you got $20, $13, 13 bucks for the Wizard of Oz, I guess, but fucking 20, man. See, there's something I didn't know. That they would just charge whatever the fuck they wanted for videos back in the day, because like as long back as I could remember, it was like there was a set price. You know, like a brand new, even when I was a kid, brand new VHS had released and they would all be around a tenner. And same with DVDs. When DVDs came out, VHSs got pushed back to like £7 and DVDs were around a tenner. And it's the same now. DVDs are still around a tenner because the pound is in the shitter. But like, if you want brand new ones, but Blu-rays, for example, they're about 15 quid. You know, like, unless you get a box set or a super special edition and all that. But fucking $90 in 1994. Like, in fact, hold on, this. Does it say the year of this? Okay, we're just going to assume it's 94. And I am going to look up. Yeah, we're going to assume it's 94, and I'm going to look up $90. 1994 to today. 186.45. The equivalent of $186 in today money they were paying for a single VHS. What the fuck? Like, all right.
To $100 that rental tapes would when they hit the market around that same time.
But this was not necessarily the case for production, with European Laserdisc Association President R. Salters noting in 1992 that duplicating tape is very, very cheap, whereas the pressing process of disc is $10 to $12, a totally different ballpark. If his price is accurate, that's a huge disadvantage compared to tape, because what was a blank VHS or beta worth at that time?
It was $5 for 4.5 or 6 hours of recording time.
And that was retail, what we could buy at the store. With that said, pricing is almost a sidebar discussion here. The real culprit for Laserdisc's status as a niche format probably lies in one key benefit that VHS enjoyed over Laserdisc, and even DVD for most of its life: the ability to record TV. Before the VCR, TV had to be watched while it was airing. The Ed Sullivan Show, for example, ran for more than 1,000 episodes, frequently to an audience of tens of millions. But many of those episodes, including the first one, are considered lost media today because the station either lost or didn't save the original recordings, and nobody had the ability to record at home. By comparison, commodity VHS players had built-in clocks. Not so you could see what time it was during movie night, but so you could schedule the recording of your favorite shows so you could watch them back later, usually skipping the commercials. Oh yeah, and because the recorders were ubiquitous, everyone knew somebody who was into bootlegging VHS, so it was often super cheap to pick up movies and pay-per-view programs on tape. The other culprit for Laserdisc's lack of adoption might have to do with its target demographic.
Hello? It's me. I heard you would like to buy a pirate DVD.
The end of its lifespan, as VHS prices fell, Laserdisc costs stayed high because it was treated by the studios as a niche format for filmmakers and enthusiasts, and they differentiated it not just by the quality, but through the production of special editions made with higher quality masters, extra deleted scenes, through the production of special editions.
Okay, so this is just the standard, and it's the French Canadian Blu-ray release, it looks like. So yeah, this is not a good version of Terminator 2. If you live in Canada, do not buy this version. Look for the Skynet edition, because that is the one that they actually put effort and time into sorting it out with.
Made with higher quality masters, extra deleted scenes, or inserts or commentary tracks. The 1989 movie War of the Roses, for example, cost $69.98 at release for the special edition, though it did include Danny DeVito commentary, which I think we can all agree makes just about anything better. Still kills me that this is what won the format war, especially when you factor in why. All right, let's do the side-by-side.
It won because of piracy. That's what it is. It won because of piracy, and like he said it himself, you could record and bootleg, and the thing that allows piracy is normally the thing that wins.
Oh wow, this is terrible.
There is a lot of artifacts going across the screen.
It's a funny thing, because I look at this and I go, ew, that is disgustingly analog. But Laserdisc is also analog, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's just way better analog. In fairness to VHS, this is obviously a very old tape, and
It's also a very old player. Oh wow, yeah,
the
those explosions.
flame, the fire's not even yellow. Contrary to what the marketing would have you believe, fast forward is not that fast. This is what, maybe 3x speed? Might even be 2x.
This is slow enough where if
I
I
think
put a
it's
YouTube
2x.
video on this speed, I could still understand what was happening.
Oh, this is the part you wanted to see, right?
I wanted to see this, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, man. It was a skill to be able to press the play button right at the moment where the momentum would stop right in time to hit the spot that you wanted to play from.
Can you imagine being a film buff and going over to somebody else's house and not knowing how to use a VCR because all you've done is Laserdisc? Still cool.
Wow. I didn't think my impression of VHS could get worse. And then I saw this. And the Laserdisc advantages keep...
This is just bringing me back to my, like, I was a movie buff. I still kind of am, I guess, but I was definitely more of a movie buff when I was a child and in my teens. And I had a little blue TV VHS combo machine. Like, obviously we had the proper VHS recorder in the living room so we could record off TV and stuff, but in my bedroom I had a TV that was about that size, the one they're watching on. It was blue and it had a VHS in it, and that was how... Oh no, I had a separate blue VHS. I'm sorry, Mum. I'm sorry. She got me two, like, it was separate. Yeah, so looking back, yeah, I had one of each, and this is how I would watch my films. I specifically remember one year begging to get the Terminator trilogy. Well, I was 10. It was 2003. It was the year that Terminator 3 released, and I specifically remember begging my dad, because I knew what my mum was getting me for Christmas. She was getting me wrestling figures. So I begged my dad to get me Terminator 1, 2, and 3 on video, and he did. And I watched the living shit out of Terminator 1 and 2. I probably watched the living shit out of 3 as well at the time, because I was a stupid kid. But 1 and 2, I definitely watched the living shit out of.
Keep coming. One of the reasons that we can't really get into image quality analysis is that as long as you have a supported player and disc, Laserdisc does frame-by-frame playback, but VHS does not. It's also far less susceptible to degradation due to heat and humidity, so it wouldn't really be fair given that these are probably still in perfect shape. Though it should be noted that they could warp in heat like any plastic disc-based storage medium, and they were very susceptible to accidental damage from children. Please don't do that. Discs cleaned with isopropyl alcohol would often turn cloudy, and even if you didn't mistreat your discs, if you got unlucky, there is the potential for disc rot to occur over time, though this seems to be limited to discs that were pressed in certain factories, notably Sony DADC. The Laserdisc database has a running list of affected releases, including, notably, Batman Returns from 1992. They also had some other issues. You don't have to rewind, advantage Laserdisc, but you do have to get up in the middle of your film to flip the disc. That is a real bummer. And making matters worse, for movies longer than 2 hours, you could be getting up not once, but up to 3 times to both flip and then change discs. Now I see why this didn't take off. Or did it? There was a place where Laserdisc found a surprisingly strong footing: the Japan, Southeast Asia region. And we can't say exactly why it became popular there, but we can say that there is one feature that gets used a lot more there than in the West: multiple audio tracks.
Okay, I thought he was going to say freeze framing, but okay, never mind. Right, let's continue.
More there than in the West. Multiple audio tracks. In markets with a lot of cross-language cinema, this was a major benefit of Laserdisc, but it can't be the whole story, can it? Why not also Europe or South America? Well, because it wasn't just movies that were being purchased on Laserdisc in Asia. Karaoke had spread rapidly across the continent in the 70s, and karaoke Laserdiscs could include vocals on a separate audio stream from the backing track, which is obviously kind of a big deal. It also supported in-band closed captioning, so lyrics could be toggled as they weren't burned into the analog video, and Billboard magazine noted in 1992 that 40% of Japanese Laserdisc sales were actually karaoke titles, with there being roughly the same number of karaoke discs available as there were movie releases. So it was a perfect...
I will say I have been my friends Oscar and Noah both live in Japan. One of them is English, grew up with me in Essex, and the other one is American, grew up in Ohio. And both of them have told me how big karaoke is there. To the point, apparently, people in karaoke bars will get people at karaoke bars will get mad at you if you're good, by the sounds of things. Because you're not supposed to be. It's supposed to be dumb fun. You're not supposed to try. You know, it's like inviting a pro gamer to the chill tournament between mates. You know, it's like, yeah, like I can. So they get mad, and I can understand that somewhat, I guess. But on the same token, it's not a competition though, karaoke. So I'd just be happy to hear a fucking banging singer instead of all of the shit that you'd probably have to deal with.
Storm then of
each to their own.
Coupled with that resilience against high heat, high humidity environments. You know what else is super resilient in challenging environments? The new stubby and multicolored screwdrivers from lttstore.com. Do we have a karaoke disc?
I don't have a stubby. However, I do have the standard. Yeah, listen to that ratchet. Yeah.
New stubby and multicolored screwdrivers from lttstore.com. Do we have a karaoke disc?
We don't have a karaoke disc today. What we do have is a couple different movies with director's commentary.
Oh, cool.
And a Hong Kong release of Sailor Moon, which includes Cantonese and Japanese audio.
Oh, it's gonna have to be that. This makes me very uncomfortable removing these from the sleeves. Yeah, that, two-person job. Luckily, Laserdisc has a super cool feature, or not feature so much as a quirk, in that because it's an analog recording, like a record, you can actually see the grooves that are etched into the disc. It's not just pure shiny like a CD, so clearly this is the side with the content. Oh, that's hilarious. That's why I could see something on it, because it does have video. It just has a video of, there's no program material here. This is very unintuitive. Program material is recorded on the other side of this Laserdisc. Is the reader on the top, like a record? Hold on, now I need to know.
If it's based on a vinyl, I would assume so, yes. Like that doesn't seem like a massive shock to me. But
laser on top or bottom? It's gotta be on the bottom. There's no way. Okay, there is a way. I mean, there were dual-sided players, so you didn't have to. We don't have that though. What I want to know is how quick and smooth it is to change the track. CX seems to be an audio cleanup feature that is separate from the digital analog switch that I'm doing that on this particular disc also seems to switch languages. So CX isn't doing anything in this case. It's a simple toggle switch. Very convenient is the answer.
Yeah.
One button, and it's seamless. Like honestly, this is better than on a Blu-ray.
It really is. This is the best multi-language experience I've seen.
Pretty cool. Coming back to North America for a moment though.
Very useful,
if
very
Laserdisc
useful.
faced all of these headwinds, what was it that made DVD and Blu-ray ultimately succeed where LD failed? The adoption of higher resolution displays and the rise of home theater surely played a part, but the real wave for home adoption of each of those formats came from an often forgotten line of Sony devices called PlayStations. Owners of PS2s and PS3s suddenly had players for DVD and Blu-ray respectively, whether they had intended to or not. So why didn't Laserdisc ever integrate gaming? Ah, it did. Pioneer actually tried a similar approach, though not until the early 90s. And in fact, Our very player has a swappable expansion pack that turns the unit into...
I was wondering, right, okay, so 1836. Back at the start of this video, he showed the listing of the player they bought, and it said it came with a SEGA Genesis controller, and I was just like, huh? And yeah, that makes sense. Why now then? Like, I spotted that earlier on and I was just like, but I let it go. See, this, I'm learning how to react better. This is precisely the thing I should have paused back then and been like, why is there a SEGA Genesis controller? But, it's a Mega Drive, by the way.
To a fully functional, region-free SEGA Genesis. And on top of being able to play standard cartridges, it could also play SEGA CD and the infrequently used Mega LD. That's right, there's Laserdisc SEGA Genesis games, and we've got one. Oh wow. So it is basically just a SEGA Genesis. Okay. Pack port. Whoa, no way! Laser active. I mean, future, obviously, because that's where we're living. We are about to experience something really cool. Whoops. Okay, just a second. Did I just go flying off the track? Continue. What did... That was it? I just... Game over? Start again? You can actually hear the disc
Get good, Linus.
spinning faster as I speed up, and the playback of the full motion video background goes faster. This is because despite the physical similarities to CDs and DVDs, the actual video storage on a Laserdisc is analog. And you can really see this if you look closely at it next to a vinyl record. They've both got this kind of rings of Saturn effect. That's because we're not looking at little micro-sized peaks and valleys that represent ones and zeros that get decoded to a file. We are looking at variable-sized peaks and valleys that translate to an analog waveform, which is wild, crazy cool, but a major disadvantage when it comes to storage density. On constant angular velocity laserdiscs, one revolution of the disc, which happens at a fixed speed, 1800 RPM, is one frame of video. That means that the storage density of the outer edges was atrocious. This is one frame, and also this is one frame. And to reduce crosstalk, you can only fit about 54,000 of these frames per side. That translates to about 30 minutes at 30 frames per second. Or, I guess you could play it back for longer if, like you saw, the video is playing back slower and the disc is revolving slower. Though, of course, movies would have no need to vary the speed of the player. Or would they? Most films actually shipped using CLV, or constant linear velocity, where the storage density would be the same across the entire surface, which allows each disc to store an hour of video per side. But there were some disadvantages to this approach. It did make the player design more complex because now the rotational speed of the disc had to change depending on which part the laser was reading from. The final way that movies were stored is constant angular acceleration, which is kind of a merger of the other two, where instead of running at a different speed for every single line, like CLV, multiple lines were grouped into bands that would be read at 1 RPM each, even though it came at the cost of a little bit of storage density at the outermost of each of these groupings.
Okay.
If your brain hasn't exploded already, adding more confusion to this is that some films shipped with mostly CLV, but CAV for some parts, so that the climax or the extra features could be better enjoyed. As far as I can tell, that was mostly just marketing because there was no image quality difference, and I think it was more to do with that if there's only 20 minutes left in the film once you've switched to the last disc, well, whatever. They might as well just use the less efficient storage method. Enough about disc media for the moment.
Fair enough.
Let's put a cartridge in this thing. Oh. Hello? Oh, wow, that is kind of ill-fitting.
Well, that's because you've got the fucking NHL cartridge. They're not the same shape. Of all of the Mega Drive games you could have picked, Linus, you pick fucking, is that NHL? The fucking box cart, you know, instead of the and
Oh wow, that is kind of ill-fitting. All right, let's see if we can upset that heartbreaking final. Come on, Cliff Ronning, let's go! Oh, it's Buran! That was not a good move, Bure. Jeff Cordell, though! Big slap shot! Terrible. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Just about put it in my own net. What the hell is the shoot button? I can't figure out how to shoot the puck. Oh, it's C. Wow, we made it through an entire period. I don't think I got a single shot on goal. Goalie gets stuck on that side of the net? No? Okay, interesting. Right. Seriously, my own guy gets in it. You know what, forget it.
I used to play this game. Never been a hockey fan, but I used to play that game because you just play whatever you had back in the day when you Mega Drive. Kid, you know, I'm a kid with a limited selection of games. You just play whatever you got.
Get it, it doesn't matter. Frustration aside, this could have been great for adoption of Laserdisc, like what the PlayStation family did for DVD and Blu-ray, but only if the price was right. The issue is that those PlayStation consoles were $300 and $500 at launch. This Mama Jama? Nearly $1,000, and the Genesis pack was another $600, which is a little confusing to me. I mean, a Sega Genesis at launch was $170, a Sega CD was another $300, a decently capable Laserdisc player could be bought for $400. How did the price double in there somewhere? If this whole package had hit the market with more of a PS3 price, we might have seen much wider adoption of not only Laserdisc, but perhaps the Genesis as well. Or not, who knows. But you know who knows about Segways? Our sponsor.
As someone who likes to flex, I need to show you this E7 Pro desk from Flexi Spot. Not only is the height adjustable for your comfort and health.
Do you know what? I think I actually prefer Dennis doing the sponsor spots. Like, yeah, they still feel forced. Of course they feel forced, but it's less jarring going from Linus going, let's take a look at our message from our sponsor. And then it just jumps to him talking again in different clothes. And it's just like, okay, so you've like, yeah, I think the Dennis sponsor spots work out a bit smoother.
Whether you are working
or working. But it's so stable that you can sleep on it.
But being strong and useful isn't enough.
the desk is also crafted with quality materials.
And looks really nice.
And you get to choose different tops and frames to fit your needs. Maria, our thumbnail artist, has been using E7 Pro for months.
I love that it's very sturdy. I love the quality, and it looks awesome with my Apple tab.
See, I didn't make her say that. Plus, for E7 Pro model, they have 15 years warranty for mechanical parts and components.
Now go to FlexiSpot.com and customize the desk you like and go flex on all of your friends.
If you guys enjoyed this video, why not check out the time we bought HD movies on VHS? My mind was absolutely boom, counts. Nope, all right.
There we go. We like the video as always. And we're back. So I very much enjoyed it. That was a very. I'm gonna get out my LTT screwdriver while I finish this finish here. But yeah, I very much enjoyed that video. That was very good, very good video. LTT videos normally are. I know a lot of people don't like LTT videos because they're very surface level, but into the deep dives in old tech like this, it's just I very much enjoy it. You know, it took me back. Even though I never got to use Laserdisc, it still took me back to my youth while he was talking about VHS and all that stuff. And I very much enjoyed that video. And like I say, we've left it a like. And you be sure to do the same on this video if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. Subscribe for more content like this. I have been Brain Dead. And here's a message from our sponsor.